Okay, guys, so welcome back to New Officiant Era, a series spotlighting officiants building their businesses and brands with a bold voice. I'm your host, Tiara, New Jersey officiant, owner of Royal Treatment with Tiara, and creator of the Wedding Officiant Academy. And I am beyond excited for today's guest. Can you please give us a formally informal introduction to you and your business?
Well, yeah, good morning, everyone, or afternoon, whatever time it is right now. My name is Norma Mendoza. I'm a bilingual wedding officiant based out of Sacramento, California. So I am situated in the state's capital, and I've been a bilingual wedding officiant for 5 years now. I just had my 5-year anniversary. Very excited about it. Absolutely. Never thought I was going to be doing this for as long as I am doing it now, and I definitely see myself doing this for another decade. And I specialize in Spanish and English weddings. That's the bilingual part, and also in love story telling. So very big on sharing the couple's love story as a part of the ceremony. So those would be my two specialties, I would say, as an officiant.
I love that. I love that. And we're going to get into all of that. California landscape,
Mhm.
the bilingual aspect, creating and cultivating these, moments at the altar. Like we're going to talk it all. So I'm excited. So thank you so much. I really want to jump into the conversation, but I would not be me if I did not start with a little bit of gratitude. So this is in practice that I do with all of my couples. Just a quick gratitude check in. You share one thing you're grateful for. I share one thing I'm grateful for. And then we'll hop straight to the icebreaker.
All right, let's do it.
Yes. Do you want to start? You want me to start?
We can start. I am grateful for mornings. I am
Oh,
not a morning person, and I specifically chose to have the earliest slot that you had available because that's a new habit that I'm building for myself. And I'm just grateful that I was able to wake up with so much energy, with so much anticipation and excitement to be here talking to you, Tiara.
I love that. That's such a good one. I don't think I've actually heard that one. Yeah, that's good. Um, yeah, let me see. I am grateful. Honestly, at this point, I am grateful for the Fellowship for Change program. It is a program that I was able to meet Norma through and a couple other of my peer fellow officiants that I have fell in love with. I stand over, love connecting with online and at conferences. So I'm just grateful for this amazing like free program that allowed us to really meet other people that are in our vendor category and, just take the business just as seriously and professionally as you do. So I was just, happy to meet you and a couple other people from our cohort and all the people that have been able to come after. So I'm definitely grateful for that. Oh, okay,
Indeed. I love the Fellowship for Change program.
girl.
People
And we're
sleep
going
on
to,
it. I'm
yes,
like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
yes. And we're getting into that too. I'm excited because I had some questions I was tailored a little bit differently for like people who are, maybe going to apply for this upcoming season. But this is even better because what's really important is what do you do when you're in the fellowship? Like applying is the easiest piece of it, but what do you do once you get in and how do you utilize the resources? So we're definitely going to hop into that. But first, I would love to hear what is one thing you love about officiating?
Man, there's so many. It's a very layered question. I think it's two parts. I think my favorite part about officiating is when I have, even before I actually get hired for the job, it's during a consultation and I just feel that instant chemistry with people that are complete strangers, right? But after the consultation, I feel like we just clicked and it just feels like I gained a new pair of friends. And then to be told like I'm going to be officiating their wedding once they hire me, I think that's a really rewarding feeling when you find your ideal couple and then they're like, "Yeah, we want you to officiate our ceremony." So the honor for me starts there because they're taking a leap of trust, right? They're choosing me based on what they saw online and I made a great impression. they meet me during the consultation and it's just a confirmation. And so that's a really great feeling and already gives me a big boost of confidence for when I actually work on the ceremony. And so the meeting people and meeting my people, that's one of my favorite things. And the second part is bringing it all to life during the ceremony. So I usually meet couples in person the day that I'm officiating their ceremony. The cool thing is that it never feels like that. It almost feels like, oh my gosh, I'm just seeing you again for, even though I haven't met you, but it feels that way. There's just a lot of familiarity there because I so much goes on during the consultation. My consultations are an hour long and I've been told to come back on them, but I can't. I get so excited when I meet them there. So yeah, I think just finally meeting them in person and then bringing to life the ceremony that they've already read and imagined. Because I give all couples a copy of the script. So they read it, they imagine it, and then the day of, they actually, get to see it come to life. And I see it. I see it in the interaction during the altar. It's so emotional because of that.
Yes. I love that. I love that. That's so good. And it's something special, that we really get to be a part of. And, I make this joke all the time, but officiants are really the only wedding vendors out of the 12, 14, however many you hire for your day, that's literally up there with you during the most sacred time, the most special moment, just literally navigating the emotions and the environment and like everything. And we truly have the best seat in the house. Truly.
Oh my gosh, that's mind blowing, Tiara. I hadn't even thought about it. You're right.
Yes. It's
Absolutely.
so true. It's so true. It's something special that, again, I think sometimes when people are starting off in like the officiant profession, just because the outside eyes and maybe the other and other parts of the industry don't look at it as, as important, but we know that, a wedding can't go off without an officiant, whether friend, family, clergy, courthouse, however you decide to do it professional, that role still has to be filled. And it's such a special role like that. It's so underestimated. So I definitely love that you kind of emphasize that. And that's like one of your favorite things about officiating, because it's mine too. I love having the best seat in the house. Can't get no closer.
Yeah, you get to build this really cool relationship with a couple. And you're learning their intimate details about their story, about how they met, what drives them in their relationship, and what
Yeah.
they're looking forward to in their, in this new chapter for themselves. Sometimes you give them questions that they haven't thought about either. Just
Yeah.
kind of how you gave me questions I hadn't thought about. It really makes you step back. And so, yeah, absolutely. It's a
Oh, it
personal
does.
relationship.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. So I need to hear more about what inspired you to become an officiant, and has that reason evolved and now that you are 5 years in the game, honey?
Ooh. Yes, it has evolved. I have to admit that. And that was part of the reflection that I had to do, which was, I think initially I got married in 2019. I think it was months before the COVID shutdown. And when the COVID shutdown did happen, I was still very much in my own high of just having had my wedding and then this added layer of gratitude that, oh my gosh, I didn't have to experience that, and I just felt so much sympathy and empathy for the couples that were experiencing a crash, with their wedding plans not being able to move forward. So I don't know, it was more like, well, what can I do right now? How can I help? How can I help those couples that maybe right now can't have their wedding? I got to experience, just a great ceremony with my officiant. I got to experience my reception with my family and my loved ones. And couples were still looking to get married, right? So it was a combination of me just having had my wedding, me having had an amazing experience with my wedding officiant, and me wanting to do something with the energy that I felt bubbling up at that moment. So I talked to my wedding officiant, who was amazing, in that I feel like she took me under her wing, and she imparted what she knew, and kind of helped me get started on the right path to become an officiant. And she was so open with me and just willing to share. And so it started small. I made my logo on Word doc. Oh my gosh. Yes. Yeah. With Photoshop, or I'm not even Adobe Shop. I don't even know what it was. And it really started small. And then the other part kicked in of, okay, well, I already got hired for my first wedding. My first weddings were during COVID. I was wearing a mask. It was in backyard weddings. It was one was in the living room. Everybody was wearing a mask. And so I think at that time I was pretty limited in what I thought could be possible
Yeah.
in the wedding officiant business. And then COVID, the restrictions lifted, and we were back out. And then I remember getting those few calls where I started getting hired for bigger weddings, where it wasn't 5 guests or 10 guests. Now it's going to be 50 guests. And now it wasn't going to be in a home. There was going to be a whole production. It was going to be in a venue. So things got serious as the weddings became more demanding. the
Yes.
expectations, the expectations, right, from couples, that, hey, now it's not just let's go with a flow type of thing. It's we're having a timeline where we want a unity ritual. We want our families to participate. And the bilingual part, just a lot of couples started requesting that. And so I think going back to your question, my inspiration changed as the wedding landscape changed with things opening back up.
No, that's good because a lot of people, it's so funny because, you hear about this like COVID boom, right? So it's like you're officiant before COVID, during COVID, or after COVID. And even just seeing how other categories like vendor types transition to add officiating like during COVID and stuff like that because, they weren't able to have these bigger weddings, but some categories still survive, which was really, just us, if we're being, honest. Even my mentor for the fellowship program, she was a planner for 20 years and then COVID happened. And so now she had to make this, adjustment, this pivot, and she added officiating into it. And then when it opened back up, kind of brought everything back together. You know, it really, I love that you started during a pandemic. I don't know, that just it sounds like badass already, right? So you started during a pandemic and then you survived the pandemic, right? You didn't let the state of the industry during a global, transition that nobody saw coming that completely devastated, like, our industry during that time. And that was like an opportunity for you to not only like, you know, get your feet wet a little bit, right? But you had
Mhm.
a really good mentor. So like shout out to your officiant who taught you how to, essentially be an officiant. That's really cool. Not a lot of people take the time to do that. So that's awesome. I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. So let's talk a little bit about just the California landscape, right? Because it's a lot different than, some of the other states, including New Jersey. California is more like a destination, state and stuff like that. And then it's also a lot more diverse. So, like, how do you use that to your advantage, being that you are bilingual? Again, you are at the state capital and you are in an area where people literally fly like to you. It's beautiful the majority of the time. Like, so do you feel like that had a positive impact? Did you feel like it was overwhelming, or do you feel like this was perfect for like you and what you were trying to set up
Mhm.
for your business?
I love this question. It's so juicy.
Yes.
I it just it's so easy because I'm just being me. And so the couples that I meet, a lot of them, we come from very similar backgrounds. And And it's just yeah, like I said, it's me being me. I've had couples tell me um, that they've really gravitated towards me because I was a woman and, they were looking to support like women businesses. I never even thought that people viewed me in that lens. And then, so it's not even just the bilingual aspect of it, it's being a woman in what can be male dominated field. At least clergy, a lot tend to be men, right? And so being a non-denominational officiant, you get the flexibility to be who you want to be. You get to make yourself out to be the officiant that you want to be. But so I don't do a lot of destination weddings, but I will tell you this. I am in Sacramento and we are one of the most diverse cities in the nation. I officiate couples, ceremonies for couples that are interracial, biracial, multicultural, couples from just like, yeah, um, not just the Spanish and English, but they're just very diverse couples. And that's because I think of where I live in Sacramento. Um, and also a lot of couples from the Bay Area come to Sacramento to get married. So it's a bigger pool for sure because those who might not be familiar with Bay Area is very expensive. And so there's venues are limited. So you come out to Sacramento and there's just hundreds of beautiful venues, outdoor, indoor, small scale, large scale, mansion type, farm vibes, estates to a plant shop to um, a ballroom. I mean, there's just every year I get to go to new venues, but just as diverse as the venues are, that's also how diverse the couples are. And I just feel like I thrive in it because I'm being my natural self. And so I always say there's a lot for everybody. Um, there can never be too many wedding officiants because there's so many couples, and at least here when I talk to new officiants in Sacramento who have reached out, or I've even worked with officiants from the Bay Area, um, I always tell them as long as you can stick it out, as long as you can be an officiant and just hold on to it, and those initial years when you're still trying to figure out yourself, there's just it's such a it's such a diverse landscape in terms of cultural backgrounds, but also what couples are looking for and what they're looking for in officiants. So couples are they're smart people, they're savvy people. They know what they want, they know what they're looking for, and you might be what they're looking for. What you have to offer, your own secret sauce, your own style, your own approach. Um, but I think one of the most important things is just being okay with being your true authentic self. I know
Yes.
that took me a while because I was very shy about posting on social media. I didn't know, like, how do I connect with those couples that I imagine in my head and I know are out there? How do I reach them? And
Yeah.
so I did a couple of trial and errors. At first, I thought I had to speak everything in both languages. So I have some videos
Mm,
where I'm speaking Spanish and English, and then but it didn't feel it felt like I was trying too hard to be bilingual, And I was like,
yeah.
I'm a natural bilingual
I
person. Like, why?
agree.
Yeah, like, why am I trying so hard here? Like, come on, relax, Norma. And so, yeah, I definitely stepped back and um, I do Spanish and English where I can, but the majority of the time I'm speaking in English because that is also the majority of couples. They speak English, but they also speak Spanish, but primarily it's English, And
Yeah.
so um, it's I don't know if that answers your question specifically. I know I went a little bit off track there, but
No, it's good. It's good. No, because we're speaking to, the diversity, and being bilingual is absolutely an asset. It's so funny because when I first started officiating, I was on like Thumbtack and some of these other, platforms. And I would always get Spanish, speaking leads, like a lot, a lot. And I don't know if it's maybe because my hair, has like a little curl to it or my like complexion or stuff like that. So, but it pushed me to be able to connect with other bilingual officiants in my area so that I can still help that couple when they come, my way. Hey, sorry, not exactly the person you're looking for, but will be happy to refer this person or, whatever better fits your vibe. But I think it is such a benefit, obviously, if you are either culturally connected, to your couples, or you're able to again provide them with that resource with another referral or things of that nature. So when you're living in a diverse environment like that, it's just so important to either make yourself more diverse as well or have a diverse community, that you can tap into. So I think you spoke really.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
want to add to that because even if you're not bilingual or multilingual yourself, take interest in the culture of your couples though. I if I don't speak if it's a couple that doesn't speak Spanish but they still have maybe Russian or Punjabi or Hmong or any of these other languages, Filipino, well, Tagalog is the language. I like to ask a couple, okay, how do I say good afternoon, or how do I do a greeting in your language? And so I've done that for couples that, again, maybe there's one example. The bride was Salvadorian and he was Russian. So I got the Spanish down right, but his parents didn't speak English. They mostly spoke Russian. And so, I wished I spoke Russian because I was like, I would do a trilingual ceremony, but
Right.
I don't. I can't learn Russian in a week. So I said, okay, well, how can I say um, good afternoon, or how can I do a greeting? And I learned it, and it's Dobry dien. And it stuck with me, and I just know it now. And so whenever I run into other Russian guests, I say Dobry dien, and they just look at me like, what? So, it's at least acknowledging that your couples might be diverse, and it's good for you to create community, right? The whole community versus competition. Re Make a network for yourself. Like, you want to know other officiants in your area. You should
Yeah.
not be ignoring each other and competing against each other. Like, no, there's plenty of couples for everybody. No need for
Yes.
that. No need for
No.
the nastiness.
No, seriously, I like, yeah, no, no, no. And I had slid in your DMs that time, but I would love to hear how that meetup happened. I had saw you, I had saw Stephanie and just some other, it seems like officiants from the, California, and California's very long. So I'm sure y'all still was geographically, yeah, like close together. But I would love to hear, how did that come about and, speak maybe to the reasons or the benefits of being in community with other officiants and not looking at them necessarily as competition, but bouncing ideas off of each other, or however y'all guys decided to spend that time. But I would love to hear kind of, where did it come from? What are some benefits that you felt from that experience? And, should you encourage other people to go out and, do the same thing? And how should they approach that?
If you are serious about becoming an officiant, staying an officiant, you have to you have to create a community for yourself. You can't do it alone. You really can't. I mean, maybe you could. It'll be, for me, it would just be too lonely, too scary, too uncertain, just not knowing, not being able to. I just can't imagine not being able to reach out to an officiant friend and ask them about, like, hey, how are you approaching this? And so I don't do that with every single officiant. I'm not reaching out to every officiant and asking them for their inside scoop or asking them for advice even. I have my selected folks that I've built a rapport with that have, I've probably earned their trust, I hope. I don't just drop in, like you say, you dropped into my DMs, but I already knew you. And so it's not, um,
That's not the approach for everybody. It is for
no.
me. It works a lot, but not
Yeah.
everybody does it.
Well, yeah. For me, it's like I'll first interact with them, and I have to feel a spark, with that officiant. there has to be something that draws me to them. But I started with joining Facebook groups. That's really how I started. And then connect and in there there's a particular wedding Facebook group. It's called Wedding Officiants of America, and I started from there connecting or interacting with officiants in California. And then I tried to look to even narrow the scope even more down. Okay, well, where can I find officiants in my area? And then that gave me some results, but not a whole lot. So then I just went on Google and I searched officiants in my area, and whatever the ones that popped up, the top 5, I reached out to them and I said, "Hey, I would love to meet you. I would love to connect with you." And I pitched it more as I sometimes look for other officiants that I can refer couples to, and so I want to learn more about you. And that was really true. I was getting to a point where I couldn't take all the weddings, and so I wanted to be able to hand off the couple to somebody, or at least be able to give them some referrals,
Yeah.
because it feels, it's not a good feeling when you say, "I'm not available, sorry." It's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, who, maybe I can tell them of other officiants that are available. But I wanted to meet the officiants first and get a sense of how they work, like how would they take care of this couple that I'm going to potentially send their way. And so um a couple did reach out, and then I got to meet with them. It was, I want to say, it was a mixture of responses. Not everybody's going to be super excited to connect with you. I think
Yeah.
that some folks are still stuck in that mentality of like they view you as competition, but you know what? That's their loss. You're looking to grow, you're looking to evolve, and I really truly believe that that's how you do it. And so I had a mix of responses. I had other officiants that were very excited to meet with me too, and they said, "Hey, well, I would love to send couples your way as well." And so whether that happened or not, that doesn't matter. You got to meet them. Now you got a sense of them, of how they are. And then the wedding MBA really opened me up.
Yeah.
Honestly, there is where I got to meet a lot of these officiants from California,
Yeah.
and we just connected, we exchanged information, and then after the wedding MBA, we created our own Facebook group, our own chats, and shared what we learned, and
So good.
yeah, and then from there, ideas grow. And then one of the officiants that I shout out to, Talia from Marry Me Weddings, she's based in Fresno, which is like 4 hours away from me, 3 hours. It's quite far, but she's somebody that I just connected really well with. I clicked, and I consider her my mentor, even though she she probably doesn't know that, but I do. She's very inspiring to me. And she's all about community. Oh man, she makes community everywhere she goes.
Yes.
She knows every officiant in her area. And her area it's pretty small, but she just doesn't see new officiants as a threat at all. She mentors them. She creates events in her chapel and invites us all to get together, and we just have open conversations. We ask each other like, "So, what's your fee? How did you come up with your fee?" Because those are hard conversations. And so you, as an officiant, you're not going to be able to relate to a DJ and what a DJ charges. Like, we do very different things, right? And wedding planners, they do so it's good to know your own people, have connections so that you can have these honest conversations.
Yeah.
How do you yeah, like, how do you write your ceremony? How do you share ideas with a couple? Like, do you give them everything? Do you tell them all the ideas that exist out in the universe? Or how do you curate your list of unity rituals, for example? Is that something I struggle with? I mean, there's just so many unity rituals. And
Literally.
so, yeah, but you can't overwhelm your couples by telling them everything that's out there. So what's your system for trying to figure out how to tailor those um recommendations to your couple? So
Yeah.
again, it's
So
you
good.
can have those conversations if you reach out to other officiants.
That's so good. And it's important, right? Because it's like you want to make sure that you're doing your due diligence. You want to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward with your couples. And it's like there are people out there that will, give you the game. Like me, I would give you the game. I don't really care. One, a lot of people don't do nothing with it anyway. But two, you still can't do it like me. So I don't mind sharing, you know what I mean, what it is or how I do what I do. Cause it's like, I want you to be inspired and I want you to like, I want to cut the learning curve for you. Cause I don't want you to be out there, to me, making us look bad, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want people to feel like, well, I should have just hired my friend if this professional officiant was going to do this, you know, lackluster job. No, you know what I'm saying? So I want to essentially help the perception of the way that professional officiants are looked at. And it's like, even if you don't want to carry this as a full-time job or even as a part-time job, but you're getting yourself out there and you are claiming the professionalism, I want you to have that like through and through so people don't get confused. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so I highly, highly, highly encourage, kind of similar to what you did, start getting out there, start looking around, start seeing who's in your area, reach out to some folks. You're right, not everybody's going to respond back to you, not everybody's going to be receptive to a communal approach. And that's fine. There's a million, gazillion, fulfilling people in this world, and you have other communities out there that you can tap into. And okay, let's just like jump and talk a little bit about Wedding MBA because that's actually where we first met in person. And that was such a great opportunity. I was so happy when I found out you were coming. I think outside of one of the officiants, all of the officiants for the cohort was at Wedding MBA that year. So I thought that was really dope to like, you know, just be able to like meet people in person. So what made you even want to go to Wedding MBA?
Yeah, the other officiant that I had. So I was a newbie. You know, when I first started, I didn't know what was out there. It can be so intimidating. The wedding industry is so big, and sometimes there's clicks, there's vendor clicks, and you're like, ooh, like I can't get in that click yet because they're so territorial. So, um, she was the one that told me, hey, there's this wedding MBA. I think she posted it or somebody posted it. And I reached out to her and, she said, I'm going to be going. This is where I'm going to be staying. This is the hotel I'm going to be staying because it was intimidating. I'm like, how am I going to just show up to Las Vegas by myself to this huge conference? I've
Yeah.
never been there before. It was intimidating, but she took me under her wing. So I've been blessed and lucky, and I don't know if lucky, but I've positioned myself in those spots to have people take me under their wing and show me and show me the ropes. And she did that. She kind of gave me an overview. Okay, this is what you can expect. There's going to be a lot of workshop. You're going to be tired by the end of the day, but you're also going to be so energized. You're going to be so pumped up. Wear comfortable shoes, and you're going to use a light rail to get from the hotel to there and back and forth. And you're just going to meet so many officiants, and it's going to be great. And so I already kind of had a sense of what to expect, but she sold it. She sold it for me. So it was definitely word of mouth. And now I'm a believer too. It's like I tell everybody, you need to experience a wedding MBA at least once.
At
At
least
least
once.
once.
Yeah, I agree.
Who cares if you've been in the industry 1 year, 5 years, 1 month,
Yep.
a decade?
Yep.
The wedding MBA is it's the place to be. It's a 1 year event. People from all over the nation fly into this one space, and oh gosh, just it's I can't say any more good stuff about it.
It's electric. It is. It's something about being in that space. It's something about being around other professionals who are investing in themselves in that way. Cause like Wedding MBA ain't cheap. So we're not going to, you know what I mean? Sell that dream. Maybe it's a little bit, less expensive for you because you're closer. I'm coming from across the country, but honey,
True that.
you know, Vegas in general, it ain't cheap. But it's very much an investment in time. It's an investment in energy. It's also an investment in like charisma, right? Because you want to make the most out of it. And the most out of it is not sitting there listening to these talks all the time. Like I love the officiant track and like being able to, communicate and coordinate with all of those people there. But a lot of the speakers, you can get that same, talk and information all throughout the year on different webinars and things of that nature. So we're not telling you like, don't just go just to learn more about officiating. Like you probably know a decent amount if you've done it for like a year at least or two. So don't go there just for that. You want to go there for the community. You want to go there for the meeting people and, seeing people that maybe you communicate communicate with online that you never like physically met in person. So I love Wedding MBA. I think the year that I met you, that was the first year that I've ever went. And that was the first time that I've ever been to anything professional developing, ever. Like even when I worked in corporate America and in hospital, communities and stuff like that, hospital culture, they did not pour into us in that way. So for me, it was so trippy being in entrepreneurship and sending myself to a conference. I was like, wait, what? Like,
Dang.
and like you said, going there, you're alone, you're kind of new, you're just like, all right, I don't know, this is a big area. And you know what I mean? It was such a great experience. We're looking to go back this year, maybe as a table.
Ooh.
Um, yeah, just to bring more awareness to the Wedding Officiant Academy and, just to bring more community into our community because that's what we want to build. So, yes. But I would love, because you had mentioned this a little bit before and I wanted to come back to it. You were talking a little bit about like pricing and like packages. And I'm always telling people in our community, get in where you fit in. Everybody does something different. Some people have a one package, some people have 3 packages, some people have 2 packages. Like it really just depends on what it is that you're looking for. But one thing I always loved about you and your business is that you got one package and you're just like, hey, you get me or you get me. So
Yep.
let's talk a little bit about how did you get to this approach and do you feel like or what impact do you feel like it's had on your business?
This is a great question. Absolutely. Ooh, and another thing, my price is on my website, right? You go
Yeah,
on, you see it.
yeah,
It's right
yep,
there. It's not
yep.
hidden. I'm up front.
Yeah, very
It
transparent.
took me it took me a whole 5 years, right? It took me more about 4 years to come to land on that scheme and to land on that prize. But in the beginning, I was all over the place. And my prize was, I mean, I was practically offering my services for free because I thought that's what's gonna get me hired,
Yeah,
right? Most of us make that mistake. You don't have to make that mistake. Trust me. I know other new officiants that they know their worth, they know their value, they know what they have to offer, and they they start with a pretty good price foundation. I wasn't there. I learned through trial and error. I had one package, then I had 2 services, and then at one point I had 3. Because I think I learned that in the wedding MBA. I think I heard that from you. There's just so many workshops, and that the 3 approach system might work. It might work for people. It might work for depending on your service type, right? If you're a florist or if you're a caterer or who knows. Even for some officiants, a 3-tier approach works. For me, it wasn't because I learned that this is how I like to do weddings. I like to personalize them. I want to include your love story. Because at one point I had an option where I didn't include your love story and it wasn't as personalized. It was more of like, okay, well, here are the options because, it is, you're paying less. So that means I can't give you the same amount of time. I just can't afford it. So I have to reduce the amount of time that I'm working on your script. Those were not they were not feeling fulfilling.
yeah,
It wasn't giving me the drive. It wasn't inspiring me. I would do them and I did them with a lot of passion and a lot of love. But at the end of the day, I would be always more excited about the ones that chose to incorporate the love story. So the couple that looked at my 3 packages and said, I want that one. And then I would meet with those couples and they would be just so pumped. They're like, yeah, this day is for us. We've been planning this day for so long. We're looking forward to it. We can't wait to share this day with our families. And we can't wait to just share our story. And, we're not very religious people, but we're all about us and we want that in our ceremony. And I was like, yeah, you're my people. That's what, I'm just as excited as you are about sharing your love story. So then I said, okay, well, if I'm being honest with myself, these are the ones I'm finding most fulfilling. So this is what we're going to do. I just started offering one. I went from 3 to 2. Then I went from 2 to 1. And
hmm,
then I played around with my pricing a lot. So we have the luxury, I think I have the luxury to just be able to change your prices and see what works. we don't have reoccurring clients, right? We're not like hairstylists. Hairstylists, I do feel like have a little bit more due diligence to say, hey, warning, I'm going to be changing my prices in the new coming year, or in 6 months, this is going to be my new rate. We don't have to announce that as officiants, right? You play around with your price. And so that's exactly what I did. I didn't want to resent my couples when I was short selling myself. And I kind of got to feel that a few times when I was charging what I felt was very little to compensate me for my expertise. And then I would feel that resentment, like, man, why did I charge that? Like, I know that I'm worth more, and I know what I offer. I mean, I hear it from guests when they come up to me and they say, man, that was an amazing ceremony. And I'm like, why am I charging so little? I'm just, it puts you in a weird dynamic. You don't want that. So, I did see a drop. I'll be honest. I did see a drop in the inquiries, but that's to come expected, right? I was fully prepared for that. I already knew that from playing around with my pricing that, okay, the more I move towards a higher price and just offering one service type, I'm I'm gonna be narrowing the scope. But that's what I wanted. I wanted to narrow the scope to work with my ideal couples more and more often. I can say that now. Yeah, I just I have the best I get the best inquiries. Sometimes even just from what they write in their email. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I can't wait to have the consultation with you. Sounds so cool." Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. I love that you spoke on the evolution of it too, right? You're not going to come into the market, hopefully at the same place you are, right? 3 years from now, 4 years now, 5 years from now, you're going to come in and you're going to want to get some experience. So you don't want to be like, super high. But once you start to get that experience, and you start to develop out like a process for your couples, you really should be shifting in your pricing as well. Like, like you said, playing with your packages. It's so funny because, I think when you come into business ownership, especially if you're new to an industry, you just like fall back on like regular like business practices, right? And it's like the psychology tells you to have three packages and make the middle one, the most popular one and the high one. You know what I mean? You're trying to bring it
Oh
all
man.
right, exactly. And it's like, like you said, trial and error. So you might start off that way, but as you keep going and you keep refining your business and you keep, upgrading it in this way that you're providing more signature services and figuring out what your signature style is and things of that nature, then yeah, like you definitely need to go up. So, I try to tell people a little bit about my like pricing journey. I came in with the 3 package model. I had like the elopements, the full weddings, and then like the weddings with the rehearsal. And then I started to bump it up. And then I realized, I really don't like doing rehearsals. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just the doubling back, right? It's just you going to that venue, probably waiting, like, that time being maybe like 2 hours or something like that, because people are late and people, it's not the real deal. So they're a little bit more silly and all of these things, right? All of these things go into the time allowed it. And then just to turn around and come back the next day. And I was like, not the best use of my time, it feels like.
Mhm.
So now I've structured it to where I've upgraded my pricing, but I've taken the rehearsal out, but I've put in so many other things that, people aren't necessarily looking for that anymore. And then now I feel like I'm at a place where I want to drop my middle package and I kind of only run with 2 packages. And it's true. Once you kind of get to that custom package, you can essentially, like you said, make the scope finer because you're kind of those people who just want a quick little sign and go or something, just very low key and not super personalized. They're not looking for you anymore, right? You know what I mean? You've completely priced yourself out for them. But like you said, if those aren't bringing you what you want in your business, you know what I'm saying? Then go for what you want in your business. So I love the courage and the boldness of, just taking on one package and being like, hey, I only provide this custom service. This custom service is the best fit for your wedding. You're already, you know what I mean, being as detailed as possible with all of these other elements for your whole day. Why not do the same thing for your ceremony? And that's really like the approach that I love that, you know what I mean, you took. I thought
Mm-hmm.
that's so awesome.
Mm-hmm. Lots of
And
nuggets there.
yeah, and just for the price piece as well. I don't know if I ever shared this with you, but when I first started the fellowship program and I was meeting with my mentor, she told me I was charging too low, and I'm like, oh girl, I'm booking. So I don't I hear you. But I'm not trying to slow down, like you said, these inquiries. So once I stopped and I looked at everybody in our cohort and all the officiants that were associated with that program, I was the like lowest price one. I was like, interesting. And so we went up. But I'm just saying. So it is really good to like look at the people around you, to have that type of like transparent pricing, just so like couples know, hey, these are all of the things that you're getting. So like don't waste your time with this inquiry, because we hear that all the time. We hear about the ghosting and this and that, all the chatter. But if you are transparent about what it is that you offer, and it's very clear and it's backed up by your social presence, it's just, that's a different combination that couples are really like looking for. And I think that when you do have that one package model or whatever, you decide to do as far as your packages, like there's just going to be a stronger connection when they sign up for that consultation, if you have that transparency and if you're very clear about what it is that these, like what couples are gaining when they decide to invest and work with you for your services. Gotta choose your words wisely.
You said, yeah, everything you said. Absolutely. You have to
Yeah,
have the social media backing. You can't, because couples go and they check me out on Instagram. They
they
tell me.
do.
Uh-huh. They read my reviews. So
Yep.
yeah, I do. You need to have the backing for sure.
So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the importance of, just social media for your business. I know people, you know, they fall on different parts of the fence when it comes to social media, but I love to hear maybe, what impact it's had for you and your business. And, how did you manage building that social presence? Because I love, the way that you show up online. I loved your unboxing the other day. I thought that was so cute. Because the way we dress is very much why people hire us. Like, let's not, the way that we look, the way that we sound, the way that we dress, how we show up, even what our hair looks like. I get hired for having locks all the time. So it really is about, your appearance, and your social media presence can do a lot of the work for you beforehand. So yeah, let's talk about it.
Mhm. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. I think, oh yes. I see sometimes not just officiants, but other businesses such a disservice that they do to themselves by not learning just a few basic things about a good social media presence. Your your name. Like how can I say this? I started by following social media gurus
Hmm,
on my Instagram account.
that's
I
smart.
found one or two, and I do favorites. I follow accounts, and if I feel like, hey, this is somebody I want to learn from, I make them my favorites. So that makes sure that I'm always seeing their content. So you got to use the features that Instagram has at your disposal. Um, so I would have all these favorites, right, of either social media gurus or other officiants that I was like, ooh, I want to be like them, or they inspire me, or just other wedding pros, right? And I was very observant of, okay, what kind of content are they sharing? What is it that they're saying? Like, why am I drawn to their videos? Or what is it? Why am I drawn to their page? Because it's the colors are coordinated. They seem to have this aesthetic going on. But I didn't learn the word aesthetic until like, later. I was like, oh, I see what that means now. And so these social media gurus would talk about just, how can I say it? There's so much I want to unpack here, but using hashtags strategically, your bio, your bio, you need to put thought into your bio, because your bio is one of the first things that couples see. So you need something from there needs to grab their attention. I've reworked my bio so many times, and I feel like right now I finally have it at a good spot where it tells you about myself. You get a sense of the flavor about who Norma from Dulce Amor Weddings is. I have video, the stories highlights, and I created covers that kind of have my color scheme, which is my color is a little pink mauve. And I've never worked with a brand professional. Like, this is just, these are things that I've taken the time to do, because when I look at an Instagram profile that I am personally attracted to, I try to, mirror some of the things that they do. I don't always get it right, but it so far it's worked. And at first it was very uncomfortable to get on a video and do a stories, but the more you do it, the more comfortable you get with it, and people want to see you engaging. People want to see you interacting with them on your social medias. So I make it a point that even if I'm not always posting, I'm always sharing something on my stories. That is something big. Share. If you don't have content that you've made yourself, share other content. That's fine. Or maybe going back and sharing old posts, recycling your post. But the idea here is that you want to stay engaged. And for me, it's always about building intentional, thoughtful connections. So that's the part where I was telling you earlier, where I won't just DM somebody unless I feel very compelled. But it's interacting with other wedding pros and engaging with their videos, leaving comments. And there's no hidden agenda, right? There's no hidden agenda. You're not sending somebody or leaving a comment because you're like, oh, later I'm going to hit him up on DM, or like, people can read through the BS. Just show up and have a genuine sense of curiosity about what other wedding pros are doing. And then they'll return that same energy to you, and they'll start engaging with your content and leaving those heart emojis on your videos. And then then that boosts up your confidence, right? Like you just telling me that you liked my unboxing. I got a lot of positive feedback. Like, who knew that was something that people enjoyed? In my stories, I try to use the polls. I try to use the questions. People want to engage with you. You just got to show them how. Make it easy for people to want to comment. Make it for people to want to like your comment, to repost what you just said, or to save your post. But learn the tips and tricks. So follow social media gurus would be my first number one tip.
That's a good one. No, that's a good one. And one thing that I'm going to throw in there as a tip as well is, I know sometimes we can get a little bit like stuck in comparison, especially when we're looking at people from our same like vendor type and kind of what they're posting and stuff like that. I just want to just throw out a reminder that your audience is couples who don't know this information, who don't know you, who's never been, married before and is planning this significant chapter in their life that's like they thought was going to be super fun, but it's actually overwhelming and very stressful, right? And so I even find myself like getting like stuck on like, what am I posting? What am I posting? And sometimes I'm looking at what my peers are posting, and I was like, oh, I don't want to post that because they post that. And I'm like, girl, they're not even talking to the people you're talking to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you kind of have to remember who your audience is. So I just wanted to throw that out there as a reminder. Like, you might see other people doing stuff. Remember, they're talking to their audience. You need to talk to your audience. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
We've got that down pack situated, right?
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I think there's just different ways that you can develop your presence on, online. And I think the biggest thing is, especially for us as officiants, is we're being hired to be a public speaker for someone's wedding. And so when we're not showing up online and we're scared to show up on video and to share our voice and our photos and stuff like that, I can see someone being leery, you know what I'm saying, about hiring you for something that is so public, and for you to be so, vulnerable and outgoing, or, energetic, whatever adjectives that you want to use, right? So you want to make sure that we are, giving people that same energy online that they're going to have in that consultation throughout working with your business and on their wedding day and honestly thereafter, right? So I think it's super important, like you said, to build a social media presence for your business, but it's different ways that you can do it. It is posting in the feeds, it is sliding in people's DMs, it is posting comments, it is sharing on your stories. Like it's all of these different ways, going live, like, all of these different ways in which you can kind of start to build up your confidence on camera. So I love that. That was so good.
Well, you just said it was so good.
Thank you. I was like talking to myself, but like for y'all too, but really for me, like,
Like, I'm over here taking notes. Oh, that was good. Yes, Tiara? I swear.
Yeah. Yeah, so I just want to kind of start wrapping up, but I need to talk about the Fellowship for Change program. Because we were in the same cohort. I would love to know, like, how did you hear about the program? What inspired you to apply? But more importantly, what advice would you give to someone who was accepted to the program? How can they leverage a free opportunity like this?
For me, it was shout out to Crystal. She's another officiant. I can't remember right now her handle, but she's an officiant that I follow. And I think we're probably in the same trajectory, kind of like in our 5 year. And so at that time, she participated in it and she shared it on her stories on Instagram. And I think
Yeah.
she might have even sent me a DM and said, "Hey, you need to apply to this." And I saw it and I was mind blown that this was a fellowship, that it existed to help, you know, vendors from typically underrepresented areas get free resources, get free advertisement, get free mentorship, get free education. Oh my, I couldn't believe that something like that existed. And I immediately applied. I'm at that point, I think I was in year 3. And so I had already come to a point where I was committed to making my officiant business a serious one, to discover more of like of my own personal brand and my own um just what I was going to ultimately do to ensure that my business thrived as an officiant. So it was a no-brainer for me. And so what I asked her, like, "Hey, well, how did you take advantage of the program? Like, do you have any tips for me?" I got accepted. I was thrilled when I got accepted. And I knew I wanted to do some homework in advance. So I asked her, like, how do I ensure that I'm showing up um, in a way that will set me up for success in this mentorship? Because I knew I had an idea, but I didn't fully know what to expect, right? And she gave me a few tips, and so I quickly learned though that oh, you need to have the discipline. Because it can be a very independent process if you don't fully engage with the opportunities presented, if you don't go to the coffee hours, if you don't go to the webinars, if you don't do the homework before the check-ins. So if you're not at a point where you're ready, where you have the capacity, the time, maybe you have other family commitments, you have other work or job commitments, I get it. But to really make the most of this opportunity, you need to know that you're going to have to dedicate a number of hours so that you can really maximize those check-ins with your mentor, those coffee hours, those webinars. So I would say if you are somebody that got accepted, know what a privilege that is, because now that the the fellowship is becoming more popular, I hear of folks that are not getting accepted. And
Yeah.
so I refer people. I'm always pushing people that I think would benefit from it. And they're like, "I didn't get in." I'm like, "Okay, it's okay. Maybe this was not your time. Let's try again next year." And so if you got accepted, just know what a big deal that is. And so be prepared, because you're gonna be think of it as a course. Think of it as a class, a college class course that you paid for, which in this case you did, and it's free, but just think of it as if though you did, because I think sometimes when things are free, we make the mistake of um
An advantage.
maybe not giving it our time and energy that it we should be.
Yeah.
So that's what I'll say about the fellowship.
That was so good. That was so good. I think similar for me, we're class 23. Yes, we're class of 23. So when I started in the industry in 22, I came from the notary industry, and like notary is just, it's such a small, like officiating such a small niche in that industry. And I'm like, there's a $1 billion wedding industry, you know what I mean? And every wedding needs an officiant. And so I knew that I wanted such specialized mentorship within the wedding industry. Like getting like a notary mentor who does officiating on the side, I knew just was not going to cut it. And I had already been advertising with Wedding Pro. I had did like my first year. Luckily for me, my first year contract literally ended the same month that the Wedding Pro started. So I got like my second year and it was continuous. But yeah, for me, I just knew I wanted that specialized education. And when I got accepted, I remember I got on a call with Camille, like when it first started, and I said, "How do I leverage this program? Like, I love that Wedding Pro is doing this, but how do we stay connected with Wedding Pro after this is over? Because this is great. Like, yes, this is a 12-month program. Everybody is volunteering their time. I don't believe the mentors, get paid for anything, that they do with us. So, how can I make it so that every time that I am in a classroom, well, like on our virtual classroom or at an event or something, like y'all put a name to a face. You know who I am and you know what I do. And so I took that very, very seriously with the fellowship. And also when you can have access to these mentors that you would typically have to pay hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars to have a conversation with, yeah, you get on those calendars and you get that specialized advice and you apply it and they see you, and then they're more likely to want to work with you, or just give you kind of like that free game or free advice, or you might not even ask for it. They just might give it to you unsolicitedly, and that saved you $500. So it's just like being in that space. And I knew I wanted to learn how to maneuver in the industry because it was new for me. I came from healthcare. I did notary for I don't think a year, like literally a couple of months, and that's a whole nother industry. And then I transitioned to the wedding industry, which is completely different, emotions based. Like you said, there's a lot riding on literally just one day. Like it's a lot of
Mhm.
preparation and stuff. So this program was definitely great for you to, of course, meet other people, of course, get the education, of course, get the free advertisement, but really the mentorship was what I seek the most from that. And my business changed dramatically in them little 12 months. That little 12 months saved me probably 5 years,
Mhm.
realistically. Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to my mentor, Bethel. Um, yeah, I made some pretty big changes in my business structure because of our conversations, because of
Yeah.
her mentorship.
Yeah.
Always, always grateful for her. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other piece, of course, is do it. Like, do it. You know what I mean? Like, that's always going to be the other end. People can tell you everything, but are you going to do it? Okay, so I would love to ask you our last question, which is if you can name maybe one or maybe the most significant challenge that you face as a newer officiant, and advice to other newer officiants on how you tackle that challenge. And like, like a little mini pep talk. Send them off with some good energy.
All right. Ooh, I want to send you off with the good energy, and at the same time, how did I tackle my challenge? Um,
You overcame it though, so that's the most important.
yeah, yeah. Well, the first one is getting ordained is not difficult, okay? That's the easy part. How do you get couples? How do
Yes.
you get your first hire? That was my question. Like I said, I did my logo on Word doc. I opened up my Facebook group, and I thought that was all I would need. I didn't think I was gonna need a website. I was like, Facebook is my website, and then you realize that's probably not how if you gotta invest. And I didn't know that at the beginning. I really thought that I could just create a Facebook page and that would bring in clients. And my first couple of clients were people that knew me because I shared it on my own social media with my own social media friends. I said, hey, I'm an officiant now. This is my business. Hire me for your wedding. Um, and bless their hearts because they did that. So I want to say the first 5 weddings that I did were people that knew me
Awesome.
and knew of my reputation. They knew I was a very credible person. They knew me from my own professional background as a public speaker and my former career path, which was higher education. And um, that was great because they were my first reviews. And so the way that I overcame the biggest challenge, which is how to get couples, was doing the basics. I created a Google business page. Google is one of the main ways that couples find me nowadays. So I was very focused on building my reviews. So at the beginning, I was very much focused on asking couples, hey, please write a review for me. This is how other couples like you can find me on the internet. And then I realized that having a Facebook page alone, um, couples are somehow when you have a website, it just sends a very different message.
Yeah.
It shows that you're serious. It shows that you take your business serious because you just paid for a website. You bought a domain. Couples, that immediately creates trust. And so I noticed a huge difference when I created my website. And I started with a free website, the ones where it has at the end the name of the host. I think it was Wixie, or I can't remember, Wixie.
Yeah.
And I started that way. And then I realized I don't want to add that at the end of I just want it to be a dulceamorweddings.com. That's it. And I went ahead and I bought my domain. I bought a website, and at first, I think I didn't know a thing about SEO or search engine optimization, which is how to set up your website to ensure that you're you're showing up first in those lists of Google searches. So I think the challenge is going to be being okay with taking baby steps, because I'm telling you all this, but that was in a course of like 2-3 years. And so at the beginning, you are probably going to start with a Facebook page, and that's fine. That's fine. But slowly making those changes. Then I upgraded my logo. I went on Etsy and I reached out to somebody and said, hey, can you make me a logo? But at first, it was my Word doc logo, self-made DIY, that carried me through, that at least showed, hey, I'm serious here. I have my logo, I have my email, I have a business name. I'm serious about this. And so I think that if you know in your heart that you're serious about this and you don't just see it as a side hustle, you don't just see it as a hobby, because I stopped calling it a side hustle year 2. At the beginning, I was calling it that. And the energy that it just brought, how it made me feel when I said it was my side hustle, it just, it didn't even sit right with me. I
Yeah.
said, no, this is my business. This is my business. I am pouring energy. I'm pouring money into it now. I am doing professional networking. I'm doing professional development. This is a business. And when you say that, even just how it rolls out of your tongue, it feels serious. It has a weight to it. So I would say if you don't feel that yet, if you don't feel like you're serious about it yet, have a check-in with yourself at the end of year 1. And if you're like, well, I really like it, but right now I can't stop seeing it as a hobby. Okay, that's fine. But just know that it is gonna be limiting. But if you're like, no, I am ready to grow, I'm ready to take it to the next step, then start initiating small little steps to big changes. Upgrade your logo, upgrade your website, Maybe now you're gonna commit to being more engaged in your Instagram. Maybe now you're gonna pay for a photo shoot. I did a personal photo shoot, I think year two. Year two is when things started to change for me. I paid a photographer to do some professional headshots of me. But that's when I had the money to then start investing back into my business. And so little upgrades.
Good.
I hope that's the best pep talk I can give to you.
No, and honestly, that's literally the best pep talk. You know what I'm saying? And another reason why, we even started the Wedding Officiant Academy, because it's like, there's like a gap, you know what I'm saying? Where it's like those people who are like the Bethels and the Mark Allen Garros, you know what I'm saying? Like the people who are just like light years ahead of you. And it's like, gosh, I don't even know if I can see that far. And then even when you talk to people that are at that caliber, as nice as they are, is there's still just that disconnect of, this is just the beginning and I don't have that confidence yet. You're walking, you're standing, you're confident, and you're speaking to me from this confident place. I'm not there yet. You know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
there's just like that little gap in between the 10 years and the 2 years that, we wanted to really fill. And I think you did that so perfectly by saying, take the little steps to adjust, especially if you want to be serious about this, because you can easily go into 4 years and 5 years of it looking and acting and running like a hobby. I can see, it can happen very easily. But I think to your point, it's like, also don't think that you're going to be at, like a Jeff Mack status tomorrow either, like doing like helicopter weddings, you know what I mean? And having your own chapel. It takes time to get there. So I think the advice that you gave was perfect, where it's like, start small, start with low overhead, because that's the other benefit of being in this business. You don't have to do a whole lot of training. I would suggest it. You know what I mean? I would suggest you work with somebody, because of the importance of the day and the services that you're providing. Just don't go in completely green. But you really have the ability to kind of learn a little more as you go ahead and get more serious and make those adjustments. So I think that was great. That's better than pep talk I was gonna give.
Thank you. You wrapped it up so nicely. I see why you're doing this podcast now. You're
Yeah.
brilliant. I love it.
Thank you. It's like I need it for me, but I want it for other people too. And you know, it's just it's real. Like this is a real, career. And if we take it and maneuver it like a real career, then we're gonna receive real results and just change the landscape. Like I wanted to throw this out there real quick. And I guess it's a little piece of advice for newer people, because I still, consider myself semi-new. I'm in year 3, so shout out to me.
Hey. Yeah.
Yeah, I just passed my anniversary, but I was literally just on Threads the other day, and there was this post that was asking to do like a style shoot, and they were looking for a couple of other vendors. And of course, no officiant name was located in there. And instead of not saying nothing, thinking, oh, maybe they already have one or whatever, no, commented, hey, do you have a pro officiant for this shoot? We're often overlooked, but always appreciated. So, what's up? And so the response was like, no, we don't. We don't even know what that would look like. Girl, have you been to a wedding? No, I'm joking. But then she was just like sliding my DMs. And so I did with my voice note, because I can talk quicker than I can type. But then I went into this whole spiel again about how I see style shoots all the time. There is no officiant there. It's every other vendor. You know what I mean?
Who's
Everybody else.
marrying this couple? You
Right.
want you want the style shoot to be believable, but you don't have somebody marrying the couple. They're just standing there. Okay.
Yes. Yes. It's
Yes.
just
Preach to
flat
that.
lane.
And shout out to those style photo shoot coordinators that are now starting to include a mock ceremony with
Mm,
an officiant.
yes.
I've seen a couple, and just it feels so good. And
We're
let's
getting there.
let's ask for that. I love that you left a comment, and maybe it's they just never thought about it. And so it's up to us to say, hey, have you thought about including an officiant? I want to be in your photo shoot. You want to invite me?
Yeah. No, seriously. No, really. Because I remember I had a content creator friend who was fresh like me, and she like did this style shoot. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. I didn't see an officiant. was one there? And she was just like, oh no, like I didn't even think about it. Like, no, I don't think anybody thought about it. I'm like, what are you taking photos of? You know? You want to say it in the most like respectful way, but it's like, hey, I am on the vendor team. Like this, we're a part of the team as well. And so I don't know. I agree. I feel like even something so small, like starting to see us in style shoots, is going to change the perception of how the industry exactly looks at officiating in the role that we play. So it's like, I just want to challenge people. If you see something missing in the industry, like don't be afraid to go out there and like create a solution yourself or be a part of the solution or at least start the conversation. Shoot, plant a seed. You know what I mean? Let it grow. But that's definitely my like advice. Do not be afraid to like seek out opportunities, but when you see them, like you have to take advantage of them. Like you have to try. Yes, I love this. This was such a good conversation, Norma. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tiara. And shout out to all the listeners, and I wish you all just growth and success and joy, inspiration, all the good stuff. Keep going at it.
Yes, I love that. So before we head out, Norma, please drop like your socials, how people can find you, and if you do offer any type of coaching, mentorship, digital products specifically for training and education for officiants, let us know.
You can find me at Dulce Amor Weddings. That means sweet love weddings. And that's my handle for my Instagram. It's my website, dulceamorweddings.com. I don't have any other socials. I'm not on TikTok. I don't really use my Facebook, even though I'm on there. And I don't have a formal program for coaching, but I do offer 1 hour calls where I'm more than happy to kind of just hear like this conversation we had, just share what I know with no filter, with no holdbacks. Just I tell you everything that I know, but you get to ask me specific questions about your own particular journey. And so yeah, I do those often. And so I don't advertise for them, but I have often folks that will DM me and say, hey, I'm just starting out. Can I meet with you? And I offer this 1 hour phone call where we can just chat and let's see how I can help.
Love that. I love that. Well, guys, you heard it here. Slide in the DMs. Like, nah. But truly, definitely reach out to Norma if you want to hear more, learn more about, being in California, learn more about the bilingual aspect, learn more about having the boldness to only offer one package, period. I love
Yeah.
that.
Thank you so much, Tiara. It was a really, really lovely morning talking to you.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you guys next time. Bye.